Hey guys, it's Chris here, and today I'm going to show you how to install your OS on your SSD. With this install, you'll need your SSD, and my SSD came with a caddy and a couple screws so I could fit it on and place it in my computer bay. But I won't be using my SSD caddy because SSDs are kind of like SD cards in that there are no moving parts, so I'm just going to stick it in my computer and not worry about where it's at. Just to make things clear, you're going to need an open SATA port on your motherboard, a SATA cable, your mouse, keyboard, monitor, and your operating system disk. Now I'm going to be upgrading my computer to have my operating system run through my SSD, so my previous hard drive will just be used to store data and not run the operating system it currently has. Regardless if you're adding an SSD to your computer or building from bottom up with a new computer, this method works just fine. Alright, let's get started. You need to remove all the SATA cables from the SATA ports on your motherboard. Now you can see that my SATA ports are color coded. I have a blue and a gray type. The blue just indicates it being a SATA 2 port, and the gray indicates it being a SATA 3 port. The only difference is that SATA 2 runs at 3 gigabits per second, and SATA 3 runs at 6 gigabits per second. Preferably, if you have an SSD, you want to plug it into the SATA 3 port, along with the SATA 3 cable, but SATA 2 will do just fine with most SSDs. Kind of going backwards, but now you need to plug in your SSD and your disk drive. You can see that I'm plugging my disk drive in a SATA 2 port and my SSD in a SATA 3 port. Now that we're done with the hardware, it's time to turn on our computer and enter the BIOS. To get to the BIOS and configure the settings, when you press the power button on your computer, go to your keyboard and just keep tapping the delete key until the BIOS settings comes up. Now this is the tricky part. Every motherboard has a different interface for their BIOS, but to keep things simple, go through all the settings in the BIOS, and wherever you see anything pertaining to storage, quote unquote, or IDE, quote unquote, enter it, and if there is an option for AHCI, choose it. AHCI is a type of hardware that an SSD uses to read data. Compared to IDE, it is more efficient. In some motherboards, you have the Marvel controller, and that is sometimes set to disable. So you want to enable that into AHCI mode. Lastly, you want to change the boot priority to your SSD. And for the second boot priority, you want to make it your disk drive. Once we exit and save, your computer will prompt you to this screen. Place your disk in your computer and press any key like the screen says, and your computer should boot right to the OS install. Now I was prompted to this screen, but all I had to do was press escape and it went straight to the installation. The installation is very simple. You just follow the instructions on the screen and you're good to go. Alright guys, so now that you've installed your SSD, you can now turn off your computer, and what you need to do now is install the SATA ports that you previously took out. So go onto your desktop and let's put them in. Now that you've installed your SSD into your computer, one piece of advice, which goes the same for SSDs and hard drives, is you don't want to install more than 80% of its capacity. So I have a 128GB SSD, and I'm only going to install 100 gigs of its memory. That leaves 28 gigs free of space, which is a little bit more than 20%. Well, thank you guys for watching, and that's how to install an OS on your SSD. If you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll answer them as soon as possible. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.